Hi. Thank you so much for coming to our session. Our session is accountability for enhanced economic ecosystem security and water resilience in Asia Pacific. This session is organized as one of Asia Pacific focus session. And my name is Yumiko Asayama, Chief Manager of Japan Water Forum and also the Secretariat of the Asia Pacific Water Forum. This session is organized as six convener organizations from APWF, UMI, UNESCO Beijing, JICA, UN Habitat, and ADB. As you know, escalating frequency and intensity of hydro-meteorological hazard highlights the critical needs for innovative water resource management, learning from community-based practice in Asia Pacific, and emphasizing ecosystem security from watershed perspective. And now, Asia Pacific region's decision makers and practitioners are well positioned to embracing big data and AI to enable the digitalization of traditional community-based knowledge. In this session, five speakers introduce their cases, and we will try to enhance the awareness and discuss the way to foster collective understanding and support integrated digital solution to leapfrog conventional approach and solution and explore the inclusion of digitalized community-based knowledge. And we also try to inspire collective effort, integrating technological advancement with local cultural insight for sustainable water and ecosystem management. We also try to showcase evidence-based practice and intellectual development, shaping strategies for unveiling sectoral nexus challenge through digital infrastructure. And finally, we also try to deep dive into how digital capacity building tools and infrastructure can facilitate well-informed decision-making by government, private sector, and civil society in Asia and Pacific. Now, we would like to move on to the presentation from five speakers. Then we will move on to the panel discussion, including interaction with audience through Q&A. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Abi Sarkar, Regional Advisor, Southeast Asia UBS, Head of Office of Lao PDR of UN Habitat. Abi, floor is for yours.
Slide transitions. Can't see. Good morning. So yesterday I learned a difficult lesson that I could not really read what was there, so today I got my laptop with me. So once again, good morning. Thank you, Yumiko-san. This short presentation is basically what UN Habitat is carrying out in Lao PDR and how we are sort of integrating digital technologies along with community voices. And the whole effort is how to work on making resilient water and ecosystem security related work. So just to give you quite a quick context, which I was also discussing about yesterday, that one of the studies showed that basing on the data of 2018, that 46% of settlements in Lao PDR has experienced at least one climatic hazard. And that happens on an annual basis, which sort of translates that about 50% of the country's population is exposed to these hazards. And two of the most predominant are floods and droughts. And it is estimated that Laopedia is expected to lose about 3.6% of their GDP only because of floods. Now, this is the map that we developed in partnership with the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment. So the darker the shade of red, it means that these settlements are more prone to different types of hazards. So the darkest shade of red is basically, which translates to that this particular settlement is sort of battered with all the 4 different climatic hazards. And you will see that it is spread across the country. As I mentioned, that about 50% of Laopedia settlements are experiencing these climatic challenges. So the way we are trying to handle it is currently we are working in 7 provinces and 12 districts in the country. And the model that we are applying is that basically carrying out an assessment, collecting data from the local level, then translating those data into information. But of course, very important is that the community is at the center. So there are a lot of community consultations looking at their perception, validating the data and the analysis that we have sort of inferred, whether it sort of matches with the community perception. And then finally, all this leads to action planning and steps to empower the local communities through capacity building efforts and also through infrastructure solutions. So if you look at assessment, as I mentioned, that the first step is to conduct climate vulnerability assessment. And these we are carrying out in various scales. In very small settlements, where typically the size of the settlement might be about consisting of 100, 200 households, to quite big cities, a population of maybe about 30, 40,000 people. So the primary data is collected through Kobo Toolbox. We focus a lot on group discussions, different stakeholder consultations. As I mentioned, very important validation from the local communities. We do a perception analysis as well. And this, of course, we also mix with the secondary data, the latest Laos census data that is available, the hydro-meteorological data of the last 30, 40 years are taken into consideration, and also different development partner reports. And this enables us to conduct the assessment. After the step of assessment, I think this is an old presentation, I'm sorry about that, but anyway, it holds good. So after we complete this phase of assessment, what is very important is that we engage into settlements planning. The settlements planning is an important effort where communities can provide a direct feedback on what sort of infrastructure they would like to see built in their community, in their settlements, which they can say that will enable the resilience of the communities to improve. So we have worked on this in 191 settlements in Laopedia, out of which 189 settlements are small to medium size, while 2 settlements are actually 2 small cities. So the next part is in the terms of infrastructure solutions. So at the town level, what we are doing is that through these assessment exercises, we are developing the town level master plans. And at the settlements level, we are developing the settlements infographics. And then we have some priority set of actions. So the settlements have an action plan and where they prioritize the sort of infrastructure they want to be built. That also happens at the town level. And based on that, we carry out our capacity building efforts and also our infrastructure related work. For example, we are working closely with UNEP to restore wetlands in cities. And then we are also working with the communities to develop water supply systems in very small communities. And also we are working with communities in larger cities to develop formalized water supply systems at a very large scale. And interestingly, what we have found while working in this 191 settlements, of which 2 are quite big cities, that the demand has always been foremost on water supply. The capacity building effort is very important. What we have done is that we have tried to give some structure. And we know that various agencies, funds, and programs, we all come with different sets of capacity building efforts. So we are working with some of our own UN sister agencies and other agencies to sort of streamline this capacity building's curriculum. And we are also integrating this into the training centers in Laopedia so that beyond this project cycle, these efforts, these modules will remain, and officials at the national level and the sub-national level could be continued to be trained. But also what is very important of the capacity building program is that we also focus a lot on building the capacity at the community levels. Of course, not all the 9 modules where you see here, we train the communities on them. Essentially, we are discussing and training the communities on vulnerability assessment, talking to them about urban planning, some of the other small issues at a very lighter version, while we go into deep technical depth for the governments. So the results that we see is that through our wetlands restoration, which is an ongoing work, about 1,500 hectares of wetland is to be restored, and the work is ongoing. And on the other side, in terms of water supply provision, till date, about 150,000 people have already been supplied with water supply, and the work is still ongoing, and we are hopeful by April next year, nearly 200,000 people will be benefited through this pilot project. And finally, talking about impact, although it's an ongoing initiative, but we envisage that capacity that is being built would be a critical element of this. And capacity not only at the national level and the subnational level, but also capacities of the communities, engagement of the communities. Communities at the forefront is the sort of the mantra of this initiative of ours. And the other thing which is very important in terms of impact is we are sort of bringing a shift in how planning is done, how urban planning is done, how settlements planning is done in Laos. What we are doing is that we are trying to encourage them to take an integrated approach, to integrate climate change considerations. And of course, we're also encouraging them to break silos and talk to other departments and ministries while they are developing their urban plans. So this is, in short, what we are doing in Laos. If there are any questions after, I would be very glad to take them. Thank you.
Thank you so much for Abby to introducing the case of Laos. And next, I would like to invite Dr. Takahiro Otsuka, Deputy Director of Water Resource Team 2, Global Environment Department of JICA.
Okay. Yumiko-san, thank you for introduction. My name is Takahiro Otsuka from Japan International Cooperation Agency. So today, I would like to talk about the use case of the digital innovation for consensus building and the transparent decision making, especially focusing on the satellite data for land subsidence through the experience of JICA's technical cooperation project. Land subsidence is not special event, but is likely to happen in the large city where there are a lot of groundwater withdrawn. This graph shows that the accumulated land subsidence in Asian cities. So you can see Tokyo suffering from the serious land subsidence up to 4.5 meter until in 1970s. But Tokyo successfully stopped its progression. Taipei, Bangkok, and Manila are also sinking, but Jakarta's land subsidence is so rapid, as you see. So Jakarta absolutely need to take measure against the land subsidence. So I'd like to share some photos about the Jakarta's land subsidence. You can see the right-hand side is a sea. The sea level is in the northern Jakarta is above the head of the human. People are living under the sea levels. Second, sometimes seawater overtopped the seawall and washed the houses. And you can see the buildings, that these facilities along the coast were abandoned already. So in summary, as you have just seen, the coastal areas have been greatly affected. And also, in addition, the impact of land subsidence is not limited to the coastal areas, but can cause damage to the urban infrastructures and traffic congestions in city center due to the flooding. So in the response to this situation in Jakarta, an integrated water resource management project, IWRM project, was implemented through the international cooperation between Japan and the Indonesian government to address land subsidence. For the co-creation of the Japan and Indonesia, we are going to share lessons and good practice from the success in Tokyo, but it is not enough. There is two additional points. The first, we believe that the process of knowledge co-creation is critically important to transform to Tokyo's experience into Jakarta action, which are suitable for local situation. So our project ensured full engagement of the Indonesian officers. Secondly, today this point is most important. So decision-making based on the scientific evidence is very important. In order to assess the current situation using digital technology that did not exist in the 1970s, in addition to the traditional method, we decided to use the satellite technology to monitor the land subsidence over the wide areas. So here, a little more about measuring land subsidence using satellite technologies. So this time, SAR, synthetic aperture radar, is used to measure land subsidence. Even within SAR, what is visible differ depending on the length of wavelengths. So in this case, we use the L band, which has the longer bandwidth. So it's the upper side. We can see the AROS series. In Japan, this is a Japanese satellite. So this series have been used in the Indonesians for monitoring land subsidence. So this is the result. This is the SAR satellite image of the Greater Jakarta. So blue color area shows that the land subsidence areas. The data acquired by two satellites, you can see from the 2007 to the 2010, there's one satellite, AROS. Then the 2014 to the 2017, there is a successor satellite, AROS-2, so we use two satellite data. And the data are acquired in each year, and we can see the difference between the, we can combine the data, then the difference between the two is taken shows that the changes over the 11 years period. Then we formulate such kind of data. The left side shows that the area where the land subsidence is greater than 50 millimeter, and the right side shows that area where the subsidence is greater than 25 millimeter. So you can see so many areas in the Jakarta has subsidence. Then now I show that red color circle. It indicates areas, the most subsidence areas in Jakarta. So you can see yellow color and red color. So based on this kind of analysis, in the last section I will present is how we can cooperate by using these satellite data. So before the start of cooperation, there is no consensus among the stakeholders on the cause of the subsidence. So it means that no serious measures can be taken. So this is the situation before the project started. So first, with Japan and JICA had cooperated in the past. We had experience in Japan and Bangkok. So we shared this knowledge to reduce the groundwater pumping and also the stop introducing the alternative water resources experience. So the damage and countermeasures against land subsidence in that case in Jakarta, Bangkok, and Tokyo were shown with scientific data. So we repeatedly enlightened the top publics in the Jakarta in the form of the seminar. So this is this kind of the public communication we had engaged. The second point, we conducted wide area and high precision land subsidence analysis using the sensor from the satellite. So it was shown that in Jakarta, there are well pumping large amount of water in area where the land subsidence is severe. So we identified Jakarta's situation. Sorry, the slide have not yet changed. Sorry. So we the first we encourage we engage the communication with the people. Then the second we use that by using the satellite data. We tried to show that wide area land subsidence situation, and also at the same time on the ground basis we also implemented the ground survey where the actual acquisition withdrawal occurred. So by combining the satellite data's wide range image and also the ground data, we can identify where is the serious point and where is the priority areas. Then this figure shows that how the analysis and countermeasure were related. Yes, this figure shows that how the analysis and countermeasure were related to the progression of land subsidence. It shows that even if the causes of the problem and the direction of the solution were discussed within the government, the effective countermeasure will be difficult to take. The scientific data presented today will be very useful in facilitating consensus building among the stakeholders and the transparent decision-making toward the effective solutions. So this is the last slide. So I couldn't explain it today because I focused in the use of digital technology, but Jakarta's effort to combat land subsidence continue in each of these categories shown here. So during this kind of countermeasure, as a basis, this kind of the satellite technology is very useful. So this is the case today I would like to explain and would like to introduce. Thank you so much.
For introducing the case of the application of subsidence with using arrows. And next, I would like to invite Dr. Giriraji Amarnath, Principal Researcher, Disaster Risk Management and Climate Resilience, UMI.
Thank you.
Provide for years.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I hope my slides will appear. Yeah. Thank you. So thank you again for the organizers, and we are also part of this important session. This topic, in fact, is new to me, framing this accountability of ecosystem services or ecosystem security and climate resilience. So my first two words were more specifically on no water, no security, and how imperative is this ecosystem for water resilience. And let me move on to the next slide. And as you can see here, some part of the world we see water is quite abundant, and some places what you see is quite absence, which you are all known. And this do happen at different scale, at different point in time. And when things need to be required, it become too abundant. And when it is too less, and we need it more amount of water for irrigation or for related services to domestic use, etc. So quite complex to look at. So how are we going to look at this particular problem? And then where is the aspect of ecosystem comes into the picture? Now, I think fundamentally to understand all this, data is very, very core to that. Water data is very, very critical. And I think WMO and many other institutions have pointed out that declining the hydro-meteorological station also undermines that the resilient development, what you would like to focus, whether it is of establishing climate adaptation projects or mitigation. Without having this data, it will be imperative to talk about any kind of solutions that is not for today as well as for future. And then specifically, I just want to spend a minute or here, while this is not for Asia Pacific, international water management has been specifically focusing on areas on how do we really account for this water. While you looked at the previous slide, there is a challenges of having a credible data in the ground. So can you go to the previous slide? Okay. Right. So what the study has done is, one is we have brought in a continental water accounting framework, and then we looked at large river basins in Africa, and then we brought in the national water accounting system. You will see some of this example. And then we have a subnational water accounting information is available. Then you can look at what catchments are quite resilient from the point of green water, blue water, or gray water, etc. So that's the purpose of building a continental to a subnational information system going forward. And this is the kind of a framework that was developed in 1990s or further closer to 1995 by David Molden. And this particular aspect is to look at across the landscape, whether it is agriculture, whether it is a forest, whether it is on soil. So how much water is available in a basin, how much is evaporated, and how much water is used for domestic or for agriculture or for any other aspect. So like the previous presenter have spoken on, how much we really need to quantify and how much we are also going to talk about reducing this risk of excess use of water in different part of the industry or in the form of irrigation sources, etc. That's the idea of doing that. So what you see is a continental assessment. This is for the first time done by International Water Management Institute. And as you can see, the whole broad region have been quantified in a large-scale modeling studies. And we are not going to go about questioning the numbers now because of limited time. And then we have a national level assessment is there. So these are certainly useful in number of ways. One, looking at how a national planning department would look like planning adequately the water use going forward in the coming years. It is also going to be useful for future climate scenarios, knowing that current water availability and utilization, what you are supposed to do that. So I think when we talk about ecosystem and abroad, understanding the water and its nexus to energy, food, and the livelihood security, this is a fundamental to look at. So I just want to go one more step. Now the scale issues from national to, we are going into an environmental flow, which is a fundamental to look at the environmental to ecosystem services. So here we developed a e-flows modeling. This is an example for Ganga River or Ganges River, and where you have looked at water from baseline to what we call is a natural flow and how much the water has been altered. And we look at how much water is used for different services, whether it is for drinking, whether it is for natural services. So this particular framework have been globally tested. And the advantage of this is what we can offer to the catchments around the region, whether it is for water purification, whether it is for flood prevention from the source point. So we are talking not at a point of watersheds or at a national level. Here it's a point-specific analysis we are trying to look at. And then from there, now we look at a much more sub-basin picture here, what we call is a catchment resilience. So yesterday I was presenting about a catchment resilience index by bringing the stakeholder perception and as well as the risk index available at a smallest catchment unit area. So the idea of bringing these is to come with a more sub-basin level analysis to say where the risk is there, what interventions we need to look at to de-risk those catchments or a sensitive catchments from the point of watershed planning, prioritization, and investments. So that's the whole purpose of, as you looked at from the continental water accounting, E-flows from the point, now you look at more from the catchment in terms of land use pattern, whether it is on forestry, etc., to understand that. Having bring this three process, one is as I presented in a form of case study. So what I would like to see here is going forward, how we need to bring this institutional dimension very closely, because each actors have its own level of cooperation, whether it is a basin authority, whether it is a water resource, irrigation, or agriculture user. And I think one critical area I would also like to see is we would then, understanding this a point source modeling or as well as the catchment, you would able to know what catchments need to be restored. Because often what happens, we talk about downstream impact. We never talk about middleware like the catchments in the upstream or catchments in the even in the remote areas where you may not really think about what interventions we need to focus in the upstream, rather than all the time we think about downstream flooding and downstream issues of lack of drinking water, etc. So we need to have more cross-scale and multi-scale challenges to be looked at. And I think providing that scientific basis would help ecosystem in broad. We are talking about better investments can go into those macro scale investment rather than talking about setting up one early warning in a place where it is becoming quite irrelevant going forward. So that's what I would like to say here. Thank you so much.
So thank you so much for Giriraji for introducing your research activity and also the key message. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Qingfen Zhang, Senior Director, Agriculture, Food, Nature, and Rural Development, Sectoral Office of ADB. Qingfen Zhang, floor is for yours.
Yes, thank you so much. My name is Qingfen Zhang, Senior Director for the Agricultural, Food, Nature, and Rural Sector Office. This new office was established last July. We consolidated the agricultural water resources, natural and physical, the rural sector, colleague, and one roof. Now we have the 120 staff to provide the services to the demand from our developing member countries from the 48 countries. My presentation is going to focus on natural capital assessment to address the KMFU natural nexus. But more importantly, I want to highlight a number of the key tools we are ready to work on it. So again, in Asia Pacific, triple crisis is facing with our people and also our families. One is food insecurity, two is climate change, three is natural capital. Again, the water is essential to help to address this nexus. Agricultural side, we use close to 70% of the global water resources, and also the climate change is significantly affected the water security. And at the same time, it's the natural capital, water share services is the key for biodiversity conservation. So 2021 in the COP26, ADB together with the other land MDBs, we signed the statement on nature. We committed to mainstream nature into the ADB operations. More importantly, we also agree what the MDB need to compare notes, how we work together to attacking the interlinkage between the climate change, food insecurity, and also the nature loss. With this context, ADB introduced natural capital life in 2021. Essentially cover three key elements. One is to introduce a regulatory framework, particularly encourage payment for watershed services, and also to introduce natural capital accounting, and of course is mobilized by blended financing to enable bankable project. And also, we introduced this Asia Pacific Natural Capital Fund. Right now, we already secure $50 million from the Global Environmental Facility, $50 million from the Global Agricultural Food Security Program to help scale up investment in natural capital investment. And then in terms of the natural capital accounting, right together Inter-American Bank and also World Bank, we are engaged with 15 countries. In Asia Pacific, we're going to engage the Sri Lanka, Philippines, PRC, Armenia, and also Cook Island for this natural capital accounting. Particularly for the Armenia, I'm going to go into the detail, discuss about how we use this what we call is a seasonal water year, the modeling to examine how to highlight the nature for watershed services. So again, this is one of the key models we are really use for natural capital accounting. Together with the Stanford University, of course, the key elements include data, remote sensing, and also use this ecological environmental monitoring, and we also need to do the phase survey. So data, as a number of the colleagues just mentioned about, data is essential to conduct the accounting. Again, through this is what we call the invest. Invest is a sort of the cluster of tools for modeling and also the natural capital accounting to vary the ecosystem services from the nature. And then the number of the key tools we already introduced. One is, of course, is a more broader level. We call it a GOS ecosystem product. And many of the colleagues from this room quite familiar. This is a more look on this national account. And this is account is basically in the progress of the ecosystem services progress, particularly those is already benefit from the payment for watershed services or eco compensation. And through this GEP mechanism, we are ensure the our payment is for the performance is the result based. So of course, as many of the colleagues probably in this room quite familiar, when we call it the nature-based solution, basically we're more talking about landscape approach. One of the typical example is our engagement with the Yangtze River ecosystem restoration. Actually, this scheme, ADB already invested $3.7 billion cut across from the upstream and also the downstream. Again, our investment engage freshwater lake restoration, wetland restorations and rehabilitation, and also, of course, is a sustainable agricultural practices, and more importantly, climate resilient infrastructures. So again, one of the key instruments, of course, is we use eco compensation and payment for watershed services as the key to engage the upstream and the downstream relations, and also enable this cost sharing between the upstream and the downstream stakeholders. And more importantly, from the ADB and blended the eco compensation scheme with the ADB lending and also the many of our bilateral development partners, we will introduce this number of innovative financing to scale up investment in the natural capital investment already. So quickly, I want to go a little bit deeper about how we use this more macro level investment tool for accounting. One of the key examples is we use this Armenia. Armenia, the countryside is relatively small, but is suffering from the climate change and also the land degradation. Of course, the water security is essential. So again, water pollution for water management, climate change impact, and also of course, is the soil degradation and deforestation. So one of them is the key. So how we are going to highlight the water, the water services from nature. So this is one of the key example. We all together with the Stanford University, we introduced this sort of the seasonal water year modeling. I don't know if any colleague in this room familiar with this model. Basically, it's quite associated with the presentation by the former speaker talking about use this model, we can examine the potential for ecological flow. Again, this modeling can capture this what the potential of the quick flow, particularly the rainfall, immediately from the precipitations. And then after that is also examined how much this rainfall can be maintained and recharging on the underground. And then after that also examined is how much can stay and then sustain, become the ecological flow. So this is 3 levels of examinations. So again, this is something now is we are work together with the Stanford University. Of course, we need to use this in remote sensing, field survey, and answer monitoring. Now, right we already collect the data and also have the good result. And also, this is very essential for us to support the arid river basin management for 2025 and 2030. So probably let me just pause here. I think we need to leave a little bit more room for further discussions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for Chin-Fen-san for introducing the application of natural capital accounting towards climate, food, nature nexus. And next, I would like to invite Dr. Shabaskan, Director, UNESCO Multi-Sectoral Regional Office for East Asia. Dr. Shabaskan is joining us online.
Very much, Yumiko-san, and
Yes.
hello to all
Hi.
friends. We are very proud to be part of Asia Pacific Water Forum session. I'm speaking to you from Beijing. If my slides can be uploaded, I would be very grateful to Michaela. So I will be talking about open science, open data, many of the topics which have been discussed. I will try to bring what UNESCO is doing. Dear Yumiko-san, the slides are still not on. I can't see them here.
Can you see slide now?
No.
Still, technician is not organizing.
Okay, all right. So something is happening. I will be able to see them. So thank you very much. I will be focusing here on what UNESCO's work is, especially about open science and bringing our programs of integrated water resource management in the context of intergovernmental hydrological program, and also the role of AI and what is happening in the region. So next, please. My office is in East Asia, as has been nicely introduced. So we cover a very important region, and we are helping build capacities of our member states. We are also helping with the policy as well as bringing South-South cooperation. And Japan, of course, is a very important member state, but including also China, Republic of Korea, DPRK, and Mongolia. Next, please. So in the context of today's discussion, from our intergovernmental hydrological program, we are focusing on sustainable development goals, especially goal number 6. And that's where UNESCO has a very special emphasis on data and information, which is important for making any decisions for this water management accountability and for the making sure that there is transparency in our decisions. Next, please. So I would like to quickly also highlight the work which we have done before with our partners, especially NARBO and UNESCO's Category 2 centers about what we say the integrated water resource management and the spiral approach. So in this spiral approach, the role of data and models and decision support systems become more and more important as we go through different stages of implementing IWRM. Next, please. So if we think about the SDG number 6 and what are the most critical links. So the most critical links, I think, start with data and information, building capacity, bringing innovation for the right kind of governance and the right kind of financing. Next, please. So I would like to give you two very quick examples here. One is from Shenzhen. Shenzhen is a very important city in China, and it has very important IT-based companies like Huawei, for example. But also it is a very important country, main emphasis from a city which brings the digital twin technology, having a representation of the physical systems with areas like Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and big data for decision making, by linking together more than 5,300 water facilities with the real-time digital visualization. The other one, as hydrologists, we know for a long time we have been working on the hydrological systems. So this is an irrigation area linking hydrology with the smart decisions, and the role of models and artificial intelligence is becoming more and more important. Next, please. So from a point of view of also looking into satellite technologies, UNESCO has a special center, HIST, which is bringing remote sensing to UNESCO World Natural and Cultural Heritage Sites. So here is an example of linking with the disaster management and linking with the satellite technologies and the related aspects of water and the recovery process. Next, please. So there are important players, like I'm giving you example of China here. We have an International Research Center for Big Data for Sustainable Development Goals, which is contributing many types of data. Water is a very important part of the global data sets as well as the data sets at the country level. So Earth observations data linking with Belt and Road countries, supporting United Nations, and also building capacities. A number of examples are given where the precipitation data, the data related to flows, the data related to groundwater, those kind of data are being made more and more available online. Next, please. So from the point of view of reliable decision making, still we have challenges of data quality, whether it's piezometric data or the precipitation or the data in the rivers, integration of tools and having the ability of the tools to be able to use the different types of data which is available, and then linking with the citizen science kind of ideas and the accessibility between different nations. Those are still big concerns from an ethical point of view, that who owns the data, how data is visualized, and how decisions are being made. Next, please. That's where we have this open science initiative approved by UNESCO member states in 2021. And that's basically getting over digital divides, as well as linking those countries which are in need of the science and the technologies being made available to them. Next, please. So in the open science, which is a very important initiative now in Asia Pacific region, and water is a very important part of that work, we are working on a number of areas, including open infrastructure, a dialogue with the different knowledge providers, engagement with society, and here also data which is open source and available, and especially you can imagine transboundary water management with countries who have difficulties across borders. So this becomes a very important initiative, bringing academies of sciences, the ministries of water resources, as well as universities together. Next, please. So there are some data sets already available for quite some time, including the global runoff data, including the water quality data, including the local and indigenous knowledge portal. But we need more work, and especially the work of WMO, UNESCO, and the wider UN system, and with the CGR centers. This can be an area which can open new avenues for cooperation across boundaries. Next, please. And I bring it back to the open dialogue for open data for IWM. And that's where maybe we need to publish the next set of guidelines for the open science and open data for integrated water resource management. These guidelines are available, they are living, and they are being used by the communities. And that's what we need to bring the next level of knowledge for them to understand how to use these new tools. Next, please. And also from the artificial intelligence point of view, this is a very hot topic in the United Nations General Assembly. The 78th session just approved a new recommendation on building capacity led by China, and with a very good consensus among member states. So UNESCO is working on the ethics of artificial intelligence and how it can be used in the right way. And artificial intelligence, in my view, will have many, many applications for data management and for transboundary data management, and especially for filling in the gaps of data where there is sparse data. Next, please. So UNESCO is working actively on open science, open data, artificial intelligence, related areas, also in the context of International Decade of Sciences for Sustainable Development. So maybe under the Asia Pacific Water Forum, we should start this theme of open data, open science, and the new tools as part of our contribution. And also, it's not just the artificial intelligence driving the biophysical models, but also the data which is the text data and the ideas like ChatGPT, and also the ability to create new source codes in different languages as well. Next, please. And with that, I would like to end here that water management, which is responsible, which is accountable, which is promoting sustainable practices, needs long-term data availability. As hydrologists, we have been struggling with that for a long time. This is high time, as the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals have only 6 more years to go, and this decade has started. We work together for bringing a dialogue, an open dialogue, bringing integrated water resource, integrated river basin management, and bringing the complex water source management challenges in the right context of managing disasters, water security, and very importantly, providing transparent solutions to different members of our society. With that, I thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for Dr. Shabaskan from UNESCO Beijing to introduce how UNESCO designed sites are managing water and ecosystem based on big data, digital platform. And also thank you so much for clarifying the digital water management challenge and also the importance about open science promotion. And we really need to discuss this matter through panel discussion. And next, we would like to move on to the panel discussion. And now I would like to invite Dr. Ai Sugiura. She is also working together with Dr. Shabaskan in the regional office for East Asia, UNESCO Beijing. And technician, would you please show up Dr. Sugiura Ai? No, good. And next, and I also would like to all speaker here go to the stage to respond to Q&A from ISA and also from audience.
First one, maybe.
Yes, please. And Dr. Chin Fen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Yumiko-san, for
Yes.
this introduction, and yes, for calling all our distinguished panelists to the floor, to the stage, back to the stage. So yeah, maybe first, if that's okay, we can open the floor to questions, if there are any from the audience first.
Yes, and we are now
Raise your
asking.
hand.
Firstly, we ask a question from audience.
Yeah, I
Then,
guess
if
so,
you have
no?
any
I think it
question
might
to
be.
specific speaker or overall. Yes, here. I think we have one question from here on site first.
Okay, please, then.
Hello, my name is Christoph Schmand from the EU Water Facility. Thank you for the diverse range of inputs, very enlightening. I'm wondering what mechanisms exist globally or across continents that share river basin management plans, develop river basin management plans where they're needed, and share them so that they are a foundation for other water investments, wash investments, as a foundation, as a building block. Thank you.
So,
Yeah, actually, who would you like to ask to? Who specifically would you like to hear the opinion?
It really extends across all, but I think the two that mentioned river basin management plans.
for any of our panelists who would like to
Yeah, probably
answer
take
my
these
something?
questions. We do engage sort of a network of Asia Pacific river basin organizations. So this network of Asia Pacific river basin organization being established for some time already, and then we are revitalized in the Global Water Forum in Bali. So that is a sort of an example. We can work together with the river basin organization to share the experiences. Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Rai, if I can add.
Yes, please. And then.
Yeah. This integrated river basin management guidelines, when we developed, we invited river basin plans and best practices from all regions of the world. And if we look into the guidelines, there are very important kind of terminology we use. It's called keys for success. And like you see plans like the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, the plans from other parts of the world, like, for example, the Indus River or the rivers in India, in Bangladesh, for different kind of challenges we have and what kind of plans were put in place and how the spiral approach was adopted. So that kind of information has existed, but maybe it's getting outdated. We need to continue to populate that. And that's where the role of ADB and NARBO in Asia Pacific has been very important. The NARBO is the River Basin Organization's network promotion and capacity building. So I think there is more need for doing that. And in many countries, we do not have a River Basin Organization as well. Maybe the water management is being still done in a very traditional way, and building capacity of those water managers into the key concepts. That's the work which UNESCO has been doing, and the Global Water Partnership has played a very important role as well. So a number of those plans and case studies are available, but really we need to look back and see whether that is still current and how do we continue to update that and how we bring these new tools, technologies, methodologies, and paradigms.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Professor Shabazz.
And
And then,
sorry, I
yes.
think Giriraj also response here.
Yes, I was going to give the floor.
Can I just respond?
Yes.
I don't know whether the mic.
Yes, please.
It works.
Professor.
Yeah. So I think it's it's a very important question what you raised, and Professor Shabazz Khan has already responded. I would say from international water management, we have now harmonized last 4 to 5 years, collecting all the global basin models and we have made it open source so that any institutions can access our model. And we have also just finished about 11 river basin publications as well in a form of publishing books. And we have also, and in addition to that, you know, at the UN level, there is once in 2 years, there are river basin organizations comes and deliver what is happening in terms of the gaps and challenges. I attended the previous one held in Europe. So there are different forums in which these are available, but I do agree there is not a harmonized framework available at a global level to look at review. There are limited basins that have socio-political commitment, but most of them have significant challenges of transboundary cooperation, which is a ongoing and everlasting problems we have seen around the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I think we have another one question here.
Please.
Hello, I'm Narayan Singh Khawas from Nepal. The question is for Avi. As you mentioned, after having all these kind of analysis and consultation with the communities, you will install the climate resilient water structures. So can you explain what kind of climate resilient water structure for this flood and drought which regularly occur on the Laoped year?
Yeah. So, so that's a good question. So what is happening, as I mentioned, that we are working in 191 settlements, and we have completed our work in 189 settlements. So the type of technological solutions are so different across the settlements. For example, I can give you certain settlements we are using the ram pumps when there is no electricity, and we are trying to use the hydraulic pressure to distribute water. Certain settlements we are using gravity-fed system. But in all areas where we are trying to set up this water supply system, we are trying to see that how best these water supply system can be maintained by the communities. And also we are trying to look at the governance mechanism of the systems also. And also we are looking at the operations and maintenance element of the systems as well. One of the critical factor that we have observed that in some of these remote settlements or these emerging towns, as we call them in Laos, most of this water infrastructure that is set up sort of falters within 6 to 8 months. And actually that's a scary thought. So what we have tried to do is we have tried to also partner with the local urban water utilities because they have the engineers, they have the technical knowledge, and not necessarily set up some Watson groups, which might not necessarily, which is helpful, but for the technical inputs, it's very important that there is that institutional support. So it's a mix of governance, it's a mix of technology that is sort of responding to the findings and the actions in the different communities. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you have any other question? Okay, I think we have another one question from here.
Thank you so much.
Please.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Nur Sultan. I come from Kazakhstan, and I'm actually a volunteer at World Water Week 2024. I have a research background in transboundary river management in Central Asia. So my question is mainly to Dr. Khan, I guess, but is also to all the participants, of course. And thank you for such an informative panel. My question is about the relationship between political relationships and the issue of trust in transboundary water systems and the need for open data. So control of information and availability of data at the transboundary level can be a means of maintaining the status quo often in transboundary river relations, and it affects the trust between states. And trust is also a necessary basis for states to want to share their transboundary river data with each other. So my question is, how do you bridge this gap between a science-based and data-driven need for transboundary cooperation and operating on open data and the issue of trust between states in a transboundary system to want to share this data with each other? How do you increase political will for implementing action based on fact and data-driven statistics for transboundary management? Thank you.
Thank you. So full response, Dr. Shabaskan.
Okay. That's really a very important role, dear Russell. Thank you for your insight from Central Asia, like Amu Darya and many other rivers in Asia, Africa. Africa is including transboundary aquifers as well, and the data always has been a very big issue, and especially in emergency situations when we need information by minutes, because the hydrographs develop very quickly, and after that they destroy, and there is a lack of trust among nations as well. So still this is an area which needs a lot more work, what we call water diplomacy, hydro diplomacy, science diplomacy. So that's an area where the role of United Nations, the Intergovernmental Hydrological Program, the World Meteorological Organization, and bringing consensus together, the role of ADB as the financial institutions, the role of the Asia Pacific Water Forum. That's what we have been doing for many, many years. And I am very sorry to report that maybe we are not reaching there yet. But there is one very good hope, which we should really be positive about, is the role of remote sensing. I was in a big hurry to explain many things. GS-MAP, for example, developed by JAXA, is a very important tool to understand precipitation, especially in areas which are inaccessible to the member states for doing the work for disaster risk reduction and flood management. So the role of satellite images and the big models which our colleagues from IMI have also explained, these are going to help us fill in those gaps, but we still need to continue to build trust. If you look into the recent floods, for example, in Bangladesh, and the kind of stories which are there, I don't think they help build trust. So we need to continue to build trust among nations based on data and facts. And that's where another very important initiative of UNESCO dealing with fake news, the role of media, and bringing also intercultural dialogue. Those are dimensions we need to continue to promote. Unfortunately, there is no simple answer, but also between nations using sub-regional mechanisms within like Central Asia, within Southeast Asia, within South Asia. So that's the work which we need to continue to do if there has to be a better future for all of us and the better future for the ecosystems.
Yes.
Thank you, Professor. Yes, please, Mr. Otsuka.
Can I add one word?
Yes, please take the floor. Please, Mr. Otsuka.
Thank you for the question. Then your question is very important. I've heard, and I would like to say one word for the trust and data. The scientific data usually sometimes use political use. So scientific data itself is not enough. But by using scientific data, as Dr. Khan said, that consensus building among the stakeholders is very important. So how do we understand this scientific data, or how do we enlarge same common understanding is very important. So we need to consider how do we use scientific data. So this is my comment.
Thank you, Otsuka-san. And Tanapon here.
Yes, Tanapon from Stockholm Environment Institute, Asia Center in Bangkok. Thank you very much for our presentation. Very interesting, and also many relevant activity that we can link together. But one thing that I would like to share and experience from our panel, if you can, we also try to support the country in South and Southeast Asia, to restore ecosystem like wetland, etc. But most of the implementation now is implementing by the international support. It's not really come through the national budget or priority yet. So because I also face a number challenge in Thailand that to develop restoration project, you must have a good metric of assessment, and show the benefit in the evidence base, But however, it's quite challenging, to show that to the finance department, and also defend the budget. That's why it's always less priority compared to irrigation, other infrastructure, development. So based on this experience, so how do you have any tip or any pathway, to sustain, implementation of the restoration project of the ecosystem in the region? Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe to Mr. Zhang. Yes, is it the question?
Yeah, probably quickly respond to this question. I think it is also related to how we value nature. I think in this case, it's a value water. So in the case of our member countries like in China, Vietnam, Philippines, again, the regulatory change is quite important. And also this natural capital accounting is so crucial. So one example I want to cite here, again, I just relate to what I just presented. This is 5 key countries. We have the natural capital accounting pilot. Philippines is one of them. Just 2 months ago, Philippines, the President Marcos just announced the Natural Capital Accounting Act. So with this act, is we are able to value nature, and particularly in the value water. So in that case, it's very easy for them to introduce water tariff, wastewater tariff, watershed services tariff. Again, that way find a way sustain the financing in watershed services. Another dimension is related to natural capital accounting is biodiversity conservation. Again, I just traveled from the mission in UK, in London. So the Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs with the Cambridge University, that introduces biodiversity credit. So again, with this Natural Capital Accounting Act, like the Philippines, number of the countries now is being incentivized, invest in natural restoration, wetland restorations, even including the biodiversity offset and also the habitat. One example in Philippines is Samigo, which is a beer company now is winning, investing watershed services, and then they also have the chance to capture the biodiversity credit. So in that case, I think regulatory change is quite important, but also associated with how we can use the natural capital accounting as a tool to enable the change. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. And Giridhar, okay. Shabaskan, do you have any response?
These challenges for all of us. For the financing is the biggest challenge, and countries themselves have to invest a lot more at different levels. And the role of businesses in taking care of environment and ecosystems is becoming more and more important. So everyone has to do their part, and certainly all SDGs related to water are not in a good shape to be achieved, and a big challenge is how do we bring in the right kind of financing mechanisms to do what is necessary.
Yes, thank you. And if you have any other questions from here, maybe Ai-san, do you have any question from online or from your side?
I don't think we have other online participants than us, but yeah, maybe, I don't know. I think, yeah, we have heard so many examples and gone through, yes, the need again to communicate and to use properly, or well, to communicate actually what means data, and then the science we get from them to any decision making or any and then in consensus building and so on. So I had a series of questions, but maybe I'm not. Let me just choose. Yes. So maybe yes, again to Mr. Zhang, I wanted to ask if you could provide some insights on the integration then of so as we have heard as well, like the economic services modeling and the economic valuation, and so a little, well, it's my
yeah, thank you so much.
yes.
Yeah, so again, in my presentation, of course, I also cite the Yangtze River as an example. Probably that is the case how the natural capital accounting is so important. Again, IDB together with the National Development Reform Commission in China introduces this equal compensation scheme for many years. This originally started from this what we call is a green for green scheme to compensate the farmers recover from steep farming and back to the wetland restoration. But for many years, the government and also IDB were also wondering what the progress from the ecological services perspective. So in that case, we started introducing this natural capital accounting Gauss ecosystem product as a key instrument to measure the progress. And after this Gauss ecosystem product introduced, we find a way to pay for performance. So again, natural capital accounting is a very important tool to mainstream nature into the decision making, particularly from the investment perspective. Again, at IDB, we already introduced this type of Asia Pacific Natural Capital Lab. And we, of course, work together with a number of the countries on the regulatory framework change for the payment for ecological services or the equal compensation. But now natural capital accounting becomes very essential. So that's why we started with these 5 countries. And on the downstream, we will say many of these new instruments will also a scale up, like the biodiversity credit just recently introduced. I think there also another instrument we can look on how to mainstreaming into our decision-making process. Probably let me just pause here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this. And then, so I would have also then a question to Dr. Avi. So throughout this presentation, we have heard how much the engagement of community and how much the involvement of local communities were really essential. So I would like to know if you could let us know what were exactly some of the challenges that you have encountered that then within the process with the local communities, from data collection to the validations and so on, and how you have overcome them. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. So maybe the answer would be quite a boring one because maybe people are expecting that I will say a number of challenges. We really didn't have much challenges per se. Of course, we can extend our sort of imagination and say financial challenges to engage with the communities, you need resources. But our experience has been to the contrary, that communities really want to be involved. And we have to understand that communities are very smart. If they see that there is a meaningful involvement, then they would really engage. Maybe there might be a bit of reluctance at the beginning. There is always a meaningful engagement. And also what has helped us is that they have seen the benefits of engagement. It is not that we have involved them only in the planning process and developed some fancy maps and left it there, but we have also come with some very tangible responses in terms of water provision in the communities. So also they have seen the benefits of those engagement. So yeah, maybe it's a bit of a boring answer. There are no challenges per se that I could recount, but it has been quite an interesting engagement, and we have also learned a lot. And the best part of what we have seen is that many of the perception that the communities had regarding the environment were sort of corroborated by the scientific findings. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Avi. So maybe I can also ask the similar question to Dr. Giri Raj. So you use as well, and then if you also had encountered any challenges then in your project when you were engaging with the local communities, and what were the specific, like an impact of the involvement?
I would not repeat the same challenges, but I would say that most of the time the challenges comes in terms of exit strategy of the project. And most of the time the communities are quite find it difficult when we are moving in a project cycle. And while Avi mentioned about involvement in the early stage of the implementation process, often they are in overall cycle from our annual survey. I would say that communities are finding it very hard. They are involved only in the later part of the implementation. So as the programs or schemes get handover, they find it difficult to adapt. And a good example is the Water User Association. And most of the time the schemes get maintained and operated at the government, but then when it get handed over to water user to sustain from the remuneratory, from the financial things, they find it very challenges because the demands are quite different than what the prioritization the government would have implemented the irrigation. So I think the challenges are always that from day one we need to make sure a core design approach should be much more emphasized in the project. Because from the government point of view also those challenges are not neglected, because the land allocation, land clearance, getting some of those environmental impact assessment are quite delayed. So the life cycle of the project are not directly referred to those interventions, I would say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Giri Raj. So as you talk at the end as well about then the role of government and so their part in the implementation, I would like to ask Dr. Otska as well, then how then in this project and on this promotion of countermeasures against land subsidence, especially in the context of Jakarta, the role of policy reform and then the role of the collaboration between institutions, apart from the consensus building with the local communities, then helped in their role within then the success or the advancement of implementation of such measures.
Thank you. I also say something with combining the challenges and the communication with the communities. Actually, we can easily to implement scientific analysis, but if it's stage going to the implementation, there is a huge difficulties. Because in case of land subsidence in Jakarta, so if once we identify the critical areas, in this area, so many people live in. So actually we located, there is one factory who use the water so much, but how we can stop to use the water. So actually in this case, the regulation of the groundwater use needed. But this kind of regulation, if we implement, we need to make a consensus building among the related stakeholders and also the community's understanding. So I'm saying same things, but in that kind of stage of the consensus building, the basis is precise scientific data, and also the not only in that case, not only the satellite data, but also the ground data, like real withdrawal amount of the groundwater, like this. Then with this kind of evidence, then we can understand the current situation, then the common understanding can be built. So, and the policy reform and the institutional collaboration. So I think the same things. Yes, in the institutional framework, there are so many ministries related. So we need to make a common understanding among the ministries. So thank you so much.
So having the framework is essential, but then the communication between them is even more essential. So our last question to Professor Shabazz. So you did talk to us about like all the ethical aspect then of having now all those data and AI and all those tools and technologies. So I would like to ask you what then are the key ethical considerations when implementing digital water management solutions, and how then we can balance those challenges with then maybe open science or other tools. Thank you.
I think problems will become more serious as the time goes by with the digital tools like AI and what data we use, how we train them, what kind of biases they are, what kind of positions people are taking, and how to make sure we navigate our way very properly. Take example of Jakarta, which our friend has very wonderfully illustrated. More than 3.5 meters of land subsidence, sea is already above. Again, in this case, there are so many ethical issues like the factory question, which was just answered. But if you think about data, 3D modeling, and understanding with satellite images and all of that, but then the issues which are related to whose point of view it is, what kind of analysis is being done, what is the level of trust of the communities who are going to be at the receiving end. In economics terms, we have these very important concepts like the externalities, who is pumping and who is being affected, or third-party impacts, and how data is going to justify, and how the environmental costs will be appropriately done. How do we define the property rights in such situations, including the property rights of the data? So a lot more work needs to be done by the ethical scientists, by the economists, and by the policy people working together to understand these issues and challenges. And every situation is unique and different. There are local, cultural, religious, and long-term institutional dysfunctional issues which need to be very openly and carefully discussed without upsetting anybody. So that's our challenge in water management, that is now becoming more complex than ever before. And the role of social media and the fake news and all of that, that is complicating the work just beyond data and scientific facts and the basic understanding by the water managers to the people who are getting affected and they don't trust news and the social media and the results of our models. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Shabazz. So we are 1 minute now to the end of this session. So I will just then try to summarize. So first, thank you all. And for this session, we talked about accountability for enhanced ecosystem security and water resilience in Asia and the Pacific. And we kind of came from, we emphasized the importance of then looking at local understanding, local knowledge, and maybe also local science and data literacy, and community engagement, the involvement of community in the inside, participatory approach, all then from the data themselves, how we do then this data-driven decision making, and how we make sure that all these new technologies are used in an evidence-based communication for policy making, for investment, and to raise then innovation for resilience. We have highlighted as well that any effective water management requires a multi-sectoral, multi-stakeholders approach with all partners involved, government, academia, civil society, private sectors, and so on. Now we need to build together everyone's capacity in understanding data, and then in translating them, and then in understanding them and accepting as well. And as Professor Shabazz said as well about, and other speakers, about building the trust and then this accountability issue And we've talked as well about then these ethical and aspects and open aspects of science and data and so on, about adaptive management. We've talked how we could then make sure that we have sustainability and in these water management issues, and that we need then policy and institutional support to implement, and that then global standard and recommendation as our work in the UN can then help as well to do so. But a lot to be done together still. And so thank you so much for all the insights and a very interesting session here. Thank you so much to all panelists and also to Yumiko-san for organizing and coordinating everything so far. So with this, I think we can close this session. Yumiko-san, the floor. I give you back the floor.
Okay, thank you, Ai-san, for wrapping up very nicely of this session. And I also thank you for all audience here and also online to joining our session. And I also thank you for all speakers and Shabazz from online joining and preparing presentation, question, and responding to question from audience. I thank you so much. Yes, we wanted to work together from now.
Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, we would like to have a photo with them finally. Yes.
Okay.
That is nice.
Okay.
Yes. He.
I don't know if it's still online.